What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and it is Sunday Fun Day. So today we're going to be talking about the cards that have been heating up and cooling off over the last 7 days. And I've got to tell you, out of all of the ones we've been doing recently, this is one of my favorite lists. We have some incredible cards from some of the biggest sets out there. Some of them are heating up, some of them are cooling down. We're going to take away some really cool data points from it. And honestly, one of my favorite Sunday videos that we've done in recent memory. So in honor of that, we're going to kick down the door and start off with one of my favorite cards from one of my favorite sets. So we're going to be talking about Sword and Shield Fusion Strike. And one of the things that we have seen time and time and time again is the big cards at the top have a tendency to pull their sister cards from the same set up significantly, right? So we all know the Gengar VMAX Alt Art, that's obviously the biggest card in Fusion Strike. But remember, there's a non-Alt Art Gengar VMAX in there as well. That card has been doing really good. Then we also have some really cool Mew cards that are featured in Fusion Strike, and this card right here has been an absolute stud. Now, as you can see down below, we're using our own price graphs. I walked you through everything we have access to yesterday, and the cool thing about this is instead of looking at a 12-month TCG player graph, we now have 17 months of data, which is cool. We can start to see patterns like this that we weren't able to see before, and guess what? Next month we'll have 18, the month after that we'll have 19. We're just going to be able to continue to grow this, so hopefully I can continue to bring you the best content I possibly can. But this card, as you can see, it's not just the story of the last 7 days. This is really a story of over a year. But the cool things I want to call out first is from a grading play. Now, this card, as we sit today, probably isn't viable. Well, we have the value submission tiers suspended at PSA. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense to pay 80 bucks to get this card submitted. But if you are like me and you believe they're going to bring the value tiers back at some point, this could be a card that's really worth looking at. Now, why is that? So again, we have all this information available at your fingertips. The gem rate of this card is 55.9%. This is a 56% gem rate card. If you compare that to Scarlet, you can't compare it to Scarlet and Violet, right? Nothing in Scarlet and Violet has gem rates this high. So this is a really high gem rate card. And then the total number of submissions has only been 6,980. So you're talking about right around, I don't know, 3,500, 3,800 of these live in PSA 10 holders today. That is not a lot. That is a very small PSA 10 population. And then when you look at the PSA 10 price right now at $175, that is almost a 10x multiple of what the raw card is going for right now. It's a 9.7x multiple. So when you put all of that together, this paints a beautiful picture. You have a really high gem rate, which is key. Like, it doesn't do you any good to have a high multiple and have a 20% gem rate, because the odds are you're not going to get a PSA 10 anyways. So this card right here, it's been heating up over the last year. You have a 56% gem rate. You have a 10-time multiple on that PSA 10 price versus what the price is today. This is not a card you're going to send through in the short run. This is a card that you buy in as minty a condition as you can possibly can. You put it in your sleeve, you put it in your card saver one, you set it aside, and when PSA starts to open up that value tier again, this is a card that you're going to send through. Now, the other thing that's really cool, and I showed you on Saturday how you can pull this from all the different era sets that we have, is you can see the circle with a B in it and the circle with an M on it. That goes to show you the demand that this card has had in the past. This card has been featured on our budget demand dashboard. And if you don't know what that is a list of the top 100 cards in terms of demand on TCG Player in the $1 to $50 range. So as you can see, this card has just been lighting up the demand space. And as you can see, the price has been following suit. The other thing that's a cool call out is look at this card. When you go back 17 months, this was a $4 card. And when I'm talking about finding value in the hobby right now, you find big name Pokemon like this. You find it when it comes from awesome sets. Like one of the exercises that I did yesterday was I walked everybody through Destined Rivals. I literally scrolled through it on the website and I said, listen, here's all of the cards. Here's all of their pictures. You look for big name Pokemon with awesome artwork. If they have some of these demand tags next to them, that's even better. But these are the cards that you can find at a relatively affordable price, which give you the upside for really, really big long-term growth. So very, very cool stuff here. So obviously, this is a card I'm a huge fan of. I think Fusion Strike is absolutely massive. Mew is one of the most popular Pokemon out there. This card is crushed over the last 17 months. So lots of cool takeaways, and I'm so pumped to start the video off with this one right here. Now, the other one we're going to talk about, this is the Bulbasaur from the Mega Evolution set. And I have said this a million times. I know you're sick of hearing it. I slept on Mega Evolutions. I actually just bought a case of Mega Evolution booster boxes. I probably overpaid for it. Don't care. Want to have it in the collection. But I finally got it. But when you look at this card right here, look at what it has done really over the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months. Like, it is crazy to think about Mega Evolution as a, I don't know, it's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but it also isn't brand new when you think about it. This is another card with a really high gem rate coming coming in at 59%. You know, the raw card right now is going for 27 bucks. The PSA 10 price is $148. Not the multiple that you saw on the Mew, but still a really strong gem rate right here. And look at what the card has done. This is another phenomenal example right here. I mean, this was like a $12 or $13 card when Mega Evolution came out. If you were scrolling through the Mega Evolution list from top to bottom, most expensive to cheapest, and you get to an illustration card like this, it's got Bulbasaur on it. It is just an absolute slam dunk in the $10, $11 price point. It wasn't a matter of if it was going to increase in value over time. It was simply a matter of when, and now we're starting to see all of that come to pass. I know there's a sister card of this which has the Mega Evolution stamp on it. Some people might think that adds some risk. To me, I think people will want both. I think people who really want this card, they're going to want the unstamped and the stamped version, so that is no concern to me. Two cards with really cool artwork, two cards that started off relatively low in price, and two cards that are absolutely smoking it right out of the gate. Now, the next card is one I have spoken about a whole heck of a lot here on this channel. I told you when it got into the 70s, I was going to back the Brinks truck up and I was going to buy a whole bunch of copies, and here we are. But to be honest with you, now that it's all the way down at like the $72, $73 range, and it doesn't, the price graph isn't starting to level off. So I'm going to wait even longer. Maybe I can pick up some of these in the 60s. But here's the thing. Ascended Heroes is going to be huge no matter what. It already is huge. It's hard to imagine a bigger, more expensive release of a set in recent history than Ascended Heroes. It is just absolutely shattering records left and right. This is a Gengar card with incredible artwork from one of the biggest sets in recent memory. The card is going to recover and the card is going to absolutely smash it. So the big thing about this one, the blue line represents the PSA 10 price, which is really cool to look. The orange line represents how the raw card is done. Both of them are coming down. There's no divergence, right? So there is no signal to me that this downward trend is going to change. Now, if the orange line starts to flatten out a little bit, then that might tell me if the PSA 10 continues to drop, that might be a buying opportunity for a PSA 10 copy of this. However, if the PSA 10 starts to shoot up in price and that orange stays flat or continues to go down a little bit, to me, that would be an indicator that I should jump in on that orange line. The only thing that I want to say, and you have to take this with a whole lot of caution, is because this is the type of card which is probably being hurt by the value submission tier being gone. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who are paying $80 to get a $73 card graded right now. So when you look, the total PSA submission is very, very low. There's only been 1,256 of these that have been sent to PSA, and the PSA gem rate is very high, a 73% gem rate on this card. That is through the roof. You just don't see gem rate that high nowadays. So maybe the Mega Evolution era is starting to get a little bit better, right? We saw that Bulbasaur a minute ago. The PSA 10 gem rate was better. This one right here is all the way up at 73%. So we're starting to see some favorability there. But still, this is the type of card. I'm going to watch both of these lines as they continue to come down. As soon as one of them starts to turn, I am going to probably buy the opposite one, with the big caveat that if people start piling into this because they feel like it's a low pop PSA 10, which is artificially low because the value tier is gone, then I'm just going to totally ignore it and only focus on the raw. So, but this is why paying attention to this type of information can help you really be on top of your game. So really high gem rate, really low submission numbers right now. And then you look at the way both the raw and the PSA 10 price are trending down. I'm sitting on the sidelines, but I promise you, I'm going to buy a ton of these cards once I start to see things flatten out just a little bit. Next one, and this is another really cool one to take a look at. So this is the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. And when you talk about a bad gem rate, it does not get worse than this. 23.4% gem rate on almost 54,000 cards that have been submitted. That is just an absurd number of submissions. If this thing even had a 40% gem rate, the market would be absolutely flooded with PSA 10s. But the fact that it is sub 24%, coming in at 23.4%, is absolutely crazy. However, you got to think about this too. The pull rate, the odds of pulling this is 1 in about every 192 packs. So they're very relatively easy to pull compared to their peers. So when you think about the booster box or booster pack prices, those are going for about $10.84. The estimated cost to pull on this card isn't that high. That's why the overall raw card price isn't that high, right? So you have really high pull rates for this card, really, really low gem rates, which is what allows it to work where it is. Now, the cool thing about this one for me is look at that orange line. The orange line, again, represents the raw card price and how it's moved over the last 17 months. And you can see the PSA 10 has relatively performed about the exact same way. But look at what happened. Look at how the PSA 10 price really has started to flatten out over the last 6 months, despite the fact that the raw card dropped, right, and was starting to hold a lower bottom, and then it started to work its way back up. So the interesting thing to me, and the takeaway for this and a lesson would be, hey, listen, if the raw card starts to drop and the PSA 10 card doesn't doesn't follow suit, it maintains its price point, inevitably that's probably an indicator that the raw card is going to snap back up in the near future. So we saw that exact thing, another really cool graphical representation of this, and another really cool lesson for us to take away. So the next card on the list is this one right here. I've talked a lot about Phantasmal Flames. Phantasmal Flames has been all over the grading report video. A lot of people have taken a huge interest in Phantasmal Flames. And this Meowth card right here is one of the cards that has just been absolutely smoking in terms of price growth and in terms of grading volume. But there's a couple things that we can take away from this, right? I talked about the divergence between PSA 10 price movement and raw card movement. And as you can see, the orange line got really frothy there for a minute. The raw card values peaked, but now the raw card values have been working their way back down. However, look at the blue line. Again, same thing. Look at what's happened over the last couple months. The PSA 10 price accelerated, and now it's been holding steady state. It hasn't started to give back any of those prices while the raw card has been coming back down. And when you look at the fundamentals right here, again, 45.5% gem rate. So this is a card which is not hard, but also not easy to get in a PSA 10. Anything in the 50% range, obviously, isn't a bad gem rate. But then you look at the PSA 10 multiplier now. That multiple gets higher and higher every day as the raw card price continues to come down, as the graded price continues to remain the same. The multiple just gets more and more favorable. So as you have this 45.5% gem rate, pretty darn good. As the raw card price continues to come down, as long as that PSA 10 gem rate remains the same, you are looking at a significant upside. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to go and grade this card. Like, the whole concept of this isn't a video around finding cards to go ahead and grade because the multiple is wonderful. The idea here is that they are going to sometimes work differently, and eventually they're going to start to come back and converge. So if the PSA 10 price remains the same while the raw card is dropping, we might see what we just saw on that Charizard. If the raw card starts to drop far enough, eventually with the PSA 10 price holding the same, people are going to snap up and join and start buying this card again. So just some really cool data points that I'm really excited to have at our fingertips now. And the final card we're going to talk about today, and this is just a bit of, I don't know, hobby excitement for me. It makes me happy overall, as silly as that is to say out loud. But this is the Mega Greninja. Obviously, this is from Chaos Rising. And the exciting thing for me is it is coming down in price and remaining down in price. We have seen so many brand new sets come out and avoid the Pokemon pop and flop that we used to see for years and years, where a card would come out, it would be at its highest point after release, it would work its way down for 6 and 8 months as more was ripped, as more were injected into the population, as the supply was starting to meet the demand, price would come down. Then at 6 or 8 months, things would start to flatten out, and that would be a great buying opportunity. A lot of the recent cards haven't done that. With supply and demand being as out of whack as it is right now, we were starting to lose a little bit of that. And I know, listen, I love Greninja as much as the next guy. I'm not knocking anybody who's a hardcore Greninja fan, but maybe this card, for whatever reason, just didn't have the popularity, didn't have the artwork, and we're starting to see it give back just a little bit. So really cool card right here. Again, really high gem rate. You have to take it with a grain of salt. When I shot this video, there was only 85 total submissions, so we have no clue what the gem rate is going to be. The only thing I'll say is the artwork on this does look relatively similar to what we saw from that Mega Art Rare in the Gengar, and that Gengar did have a 70-something% gem rate, right? So we're talking about a whole lot of color smash, the silver borders going all the way around. Who knows? Maybe they finally figured out the secret sauce in printing better cards. We need a whole lot more PSA 10 submissions in order for us to get around to that point, but it is encouraging, at least early on. It's not starting off in the 20s. It is starting off really high. The price is coming down. Makes me very happy to see, because I want everybody to have access to this stuff. So that's it. That is our Sunday Fun Day video. These are the cards that have been popping off. I've shown you a whole lot of really cool graphs, a whole lot of really cool data intelligence stuff. If you want to check it out, check out tcgmarketpulse.com. All of this is available on there. That's our website, owned and operated by the Pika Pika Papa family. If not, as you can see, my commitment to you is to always try and bring you the very best content that I can here on YouTube. So no matter what, I hope you have an epic rest of your Sunday. Can't thank you enough for watching. I'll talk to you soon. See you later, everybody. Bye.